Alright Gadgeteers, welcome back to another episode of Fast Gadgets. So today what I want to talk about is Fedora, in specific Fedora 25, and upgrading to Fedora 26. So I believe it's high time that I did that. If I grab my command line here and do a uname-r, you can actually see that I'm still on 4.10.13. Now there are quite a few updates that I should have done on this system. If I do a DNF update, of course I have to be root. Might as well just become root, right? Make that a little bit bigger, hopefully you can see it. And clear the screen. If I do a DNF update, and I'm not actually going to do this, but let's find out how many updates I do have to have. Normally when you do an update from a previous version of Fedora, the first thing they recommend you do is run all the updates. The funny thing about that is, in reality, if you watch the Fedora 26 updater, it basically is updating all your packages, which I think is kind of funny. So I think what I will do is, for the first time, I'm not going to try and do any updates at all, and I'll show you what my plan is. So there's 1 gigabyte of updates available. I'm going to say no right now. Normally I would use the command line, but many people have told me, hey Mark, did you know there's a graphical interface that you can do? And I said, well, yeah, I know that, but I've never really found it something that I would trust. So let's see if we can find the actual software updater. Of course, this time it's offering me my paint, but the last time it actually had Fedora 26. I wonder if we could find, let's click updates exclusively and see if that'll give us what we need. But the last time I was on this system, and just so you know, when I say this system, I see we're out of focus really bad. How about that? Does that work? Come on, you can do it. You would think once I manually focus it, it would just stay there. Well, at any rate, here we go. Fedora 26. So for the first time ever in my life, I'm going to use the graphical interface and see what I get. Now I think this is probably going to take a few minutes to download, and if it does, I'll probably pause it for a little bit and then come back. Let me see if I can get a better focus for you on the screen there without all the ugly lines that you're seeing. I do apologize, I'm doing a screen capture using my Galaxy Note 4 pointed at my HD monitor because I'm really not sure how many times I'm going to have to reboot or how things are going to go. So I wanted to just set something up that I could set and forget, so to speak. Let's see, it is now 6:30 in the afternoon. Evening, I should say. I think what I'm going to do is pause and save my battery and storage space on my phone and come back when this download is completed, and we're going to find out what happens. Alright folks, well, it's 6:45, so it took about 15 minutes to download the Fedora 26 installer. I was actually thinking it was going to take much longer because it only moved about a third of the way across the screen on that bar it had, and then all of a sudden it was simply done. So honestly, I thought it was going to take hours and hours. I wasn't sure how long we'd be sitting here waiting, but it says that they do recommend me backing up my data. Well, I'm not too worried about anything on here. I really don't have anything here that I have to worry about. I would just have some more setup I would have to do, which, so what? I'm going to install Fedora 26 anyway. And again, this is my first time using the graphical installer, and this one is available through GNOME. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Asking for the password of power. It says, okay, you sure you want to do this? We're going to restart and install. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm dying to see how easy this is. I'm hoping it's really easy and really fast. That would be pretty exciting because honestly, many people I should say, are very turned off by the command line and having to go in and manually do an installation or updates. And if the installer is working that good in the software store in GNOME now in Fedora 25, I can only imagine that it would be far better in Fedora 26. And I'm sure there's going to be many, many bug fixes, so I'm pretty geeked to get this Fedora 26 update and get it tested out, because here in the very near future, I'm going to let it do everything it was normally doing. So let it do its boot up and see if it starts the installation. Yep, it looks like it. It says installing system upgrade up in the top. Now it says installing updates. So this could be the part where there's going to be a very, very long wait, which I don't have a problem with. Now it's on an SSD, and I've got an AMD X6 Phenom 2 1090T 6-core processor running. It's a 2.8 gigahertz, but I did successfully overclock it to 3.0 gigahertz, and I'm very certain I could have went faster on that, but that little tweak gave it a considerable percentage performance boost, which I was really happy with. And the other thing that was boosted too was the RAM speed. So the RAM I have is 2133 megahertz, and I think it was running at 1600, and it boosted it up, I want to say, to like 1800. Honestly, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and check, but it gave it overall maybe a 20 to 25% boost in performance from the processor boost and the RAM boost. So I thought that was pretty worthwhile. And this system's got two SSDs in it, one for Windows and one for Linux. And the other thing I have in there is a 4 terabyte NTFS formatted hard drive. Now, here's what the bummer is. I cannot get any form of Linux to recognize that 4 terabyte NTFS drive. Yes, it can see the hard drive, and I could format it as ext3 or 4, but it simply will not allow me to see the NTFS partition. So I did some experimenting. I tried to make the NTFS partition a 2 terabyte partition, and even that didn't work. So, I haven't had very good success. And the problem is I've got all my media on that 4 terabyte drive, and the only thing I can do right now is boot into Windows, and I'm not in Windows hardly ever on this computer, so it's kind of a bummer for me. Now, I do have a portable 2 terabyte drive that has essentially the same thing as the 4 terabyte drive has on it, and Linux has no problem seeing that 2 terabyte hard drive with an NTFS partition and giving me read-write access. So I'm really hoping that Fedora 26 is going to be the cutover that will let me utilize that 4 terabyte drive when I'm booted into Linux, because the other thing I could do is use it to store my video edits so that I could, be in either operating system and be able to make use of those videos for uploading and other things. So, it's got a huge amount of storage, obviously, so I want to make use of it. And I don't think Windows is ever going to see an ext3 or 4 partition, but I hate to say it, but if it comes right down to it, given the choice, of course, I'm going to go ahead and format that sucker as ext and call it good, and just use it and put my media on it, and from my 2 terabyte backup drive, and use it as my media drive and my video editing storage drive, and call it good. Too bad for Windows. I don't really use Windows a lot, so it isn't something that I need to concern myself with, really. Well, anyway, I'm going to pause for a minute. We're at 37%, so this is going to take a little while. The minute I see some action, I'll come right back, and I'll try to start recording before you guys miss anything. Stay tuned. So I've been waiting probably 10 or 15 minutes now, and I pressed the escape key and it gave me the console view, and it shows me that, you know, it had a percentage indicator and installing updates, and the very last line on the bottom, I don't know if you can see it down here, installing updates 100%, and it's just kind of sitting there, but I'm inclined to leave it for as long as it needs. I really hate to rush things and end up finding out that I just made things even worse. So I'm just going to leave it alone, even if it takes hours. Hopefully it doesn't take hours. And when I come back, I'm hoping that it's done. We'll find out. Well, surprise of surprises. So I waited probably, I would say, gosh, 2 to 3 hours. I left it sitting, and you recall it was sitting there at 100% completed. And I finally said, you know what the heck, I'm gonna go ahead and do a Control-Alt-Delete and just reboot the system. And I did, and as you can see on the screen here, well, I hope you can see anyway, that top line has a Fedora 4.13.4 kernel FC26. And if I select that one and press enter, I end up booting up. So I've done this once already, but I wanted to show it to you. So the system boots up. Let's see if I can get some mouse going here. And I'm going to do my login. When I first booted up, what was interesting was the screen here was pure white. So apparently all of the wallpaper that I did have was completely erased. So if I go to change background and go to background here, I no longer have my pictures that I had in here. So I downloaded a bunch of extra new pictures. So I can do colors. I don't know why this picture is still in here. I thought that was strange. That was from an old video I did. And these basic wallpapers. So any of the pictures that I had in here are gone, and I don't remember if, honestly, I don't even remember where you go to select more wallpapers. But anyway, so everything has been upgraded. So OBS is on 20.0 now. Previously it was on 18 or 19. Let's go to Kdenlive and just make sure Kdenlive is running. Yep, Kdenlive is running perfectly fine. Let's see if we can find the version about Kdenlive. So we've got version 17.04. I should have checked that before. And let's take a quick look at the kernel. Looks like Kdenlive had a crash. I'll report the bug. I don't need to restart. We can do a uname-r, and the kernel is updated, so it's now Fedora Core 26. And last night, if I did, let me get a zoom up here so you can see that better. Whoops. So uname-r has the new kernel version, and if I do a DNF update, at least yesterday anyway, there were no updates. So I had the latest of everything. So the updater apparently pulled down all the latest Fedora 26 packages. So unlike an ISO, of course, which is a moment in time, I was able to get everything brand new. So the latest packages. So that's very, very cool. So there's a couple updates there for Python. I'll go ahead and do those updates. What I think is totally awesome is that aside from the fact that it didn't really tell me that it was done, and I don't know if that's a bug of my system or the installer itself. You know, it did say 100%, but it didn't say reboot your system to complete or do the reboot for me, which I kind of expected. And that didn't happen. You know, not that big of a deal, but really I thought that it was going to do that. But after I did Control-Alt-Delete, it immediately booted up into Fedora 26. So there was nothing to it. I mean, everything worked beautifully. All my apps are working. Everything is the latest version now. See, the thing is, when you're on Fedora and you know, Fedora 26 comes out and I'm still on Fedora 25, I get necessary security updates, but I don't get any major changes or innovative version updates. So you have to remember that when you decide to stay back on Fedora 25 or 24, okay, you're not going to get the new version updates. You have to march forward, and you have to treat it as a constant rolling update, basically. So really, in some ways, Fedora 26 and each iteration that comes out every 6 months is kind of a evolutionary update. So it's not like a whole new version like we have with Windows, you know, Windows 7 and Windows 10. And I accept that. Now, let's see. I honestly don't know where to go. How about question mark about Firefox? So I've got 56 now. There's going to be some major changes with version 57 that's coming out that's supposed to really speed up Firefox, and I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll work well. But anyway, everything is current, which is beautiful. As far as I can tell currently, everything's running wonderfully. I'm not having any difficulties doing what I want to do. Everything seems to run fluidly. I'll have to check, and my mouse is broke, so when I roll up it tends to click as well. Anyway, I have to check and see whether I'm on Wayland. I'm pretty sure I'm on Wayland, but let's find out. Let's do this. We'll exit here, and I'm gonna log off, log out. Pretty sure that was Wayland. What options do I have? Actually, my default was GNOME on Xorg. I remember the reason I was doing that. For whatever reason, OBS doesn't work correctly with Wayland, so you end up getting any recorder actually will record a black screen. So I haven't been using Wayland, at least on this computer. We can try it and see what happens. And I'll bring up OBS and I'll show you. So for all practical purposes, everything looks the same. So we've got Wayland, and you see screen capture here, and you see how the screen is simply black? So it will not capture anything. It's just a black screen. Now, let's log back out. Log out. Log out. We're going to make sure we change it to GNOME on Xorg. And log back in. Got an error there that GNOME bin shell crashed. And I'm going to launch OBS, and you can see now I'm getting proper screen capture as usual with OBS. If I go into settings, one thing I still probably do not have, and I think I've got to compile a special version of FFmpeg. And it's, for me anyway, very complicated, so I'm only doing software rendering, but I don't worry too much about it. I'll go ahead and start the recording here. And CPU usage hits about 30%. System monitor here, we'll have a look. So I'm doing about, according to this, processors at 34%. This is basically a non-issue for this particular system with the 6 cores, so it's not bad recording video. Lag isn't miserable. My laptop, it tends to be a little slower, the Yoga 910, because of the 2-core system. So like if I decided to run a virtual machine here and I assigned it 1 or 2 cores, it basically will run fine. Only using 2 gig of memory out of 15 available. I've got nothing in swap, which is good. So overall, the system's pretty decent. The problem with the system is the motherboard's PCIe slot is burned out. So unfortunately, I can't use a nicer video card. I have a, I can't remember what it is. I want to say it's a 640 GT NVIDIA video card. And although that's certainly not, you know, gamer extraordinaire, it makes everything run so much better, as you can imagine. But overall, things work pretty good. This computer has been pretty good to me, and that motherboard that's in there is going on about, I would say, 5 to 6 years old now. So I am getting my bang for my buck, so to speak, you know, on that motherboard, processor, and memory combination. And it's not necessarily my main system, so I'm not inclined to replace all that right now. It runs Linux great, and I can do tons of experimentation. I'm able to boot into Windows. So I'm very pleased with this system as far as everything that I do with it. And of course, I got LibreOffice on there. And it is now the updated LibreOffice. So I've got the latest build, at least for what Fedora 26 is rolling out. Some will say, no, there's a newer version. And I know there can be newer versions of various applications, and you know, Fedora doesn't necessarily have the newest edition. And my favorite music player, Rhythmbox. Although right now I don't have much audio in it because all my audio is on that 4 terabyte drive, which I'm going to work on and see what I can do. See if I can get that working. Curiously, let's see what we've got here. Just out of the box, because it is hooked up. Other locations. The computer itself, that's my Windows volume, so I still do not see that particular drive. I'm within just a second of deciding to format that drive as ext and just calling it good. Because I really do want, and I've tried just a ton of stuff to get it working, so not working out. So there is, yeah, I've got a 4 terabyte hard disk. I hope you can see that fairly well. And here it says partition 3 LDM data partition 4.0 terabyte unknown. So, you know, it must be able to see. Well, of course it can't. Anyway, I did try a 2 terabyte partition there, and unfortunately it wasn't able to see that either. So apparently Fedora 26 isn't going to support that. But since I'm in Linux most of the time, I'm starting to think I should just convert this to an ext partition and see what I can do. But I got to make sure there's nothing on there. Yeah, I can format it, edit, create, restore, benchmark. Mount options are grayed out. I'm not even sure what LDM is anyway. I would say that's probably correct. I'll look into that, maybe do a little research and find out what I can do. I can format it, which I'm not going to do. Yeah, I could do ext4. Now this is something I should consider. What do you guys think? Back up my data, try an NTFS format, and maybe that'll work. Put my data back on it and see if Windows will recognize it, and see if it's recognized correctly in Linux. That might be something doable. Definitely not going to do FAT. It's 4 terabytes, so it wouldn't work. Anyway, this is less of a Linux problem, really. I mean, well, I shouldn't say less of a Linux problem, less of a problem with the Fedora 26 installation. So, all right, well, there you have it. We're on Fedora 26. It was a seamless, easy upgrade. The graphical upgrade tool worked perfectly, and I'm very impressed, except for that one little problem where I did my reboot, and I wasn't sure whether or not I should do the reboot, so hard to say if it was the actual installer or my system in particular. If you enjoyed watching this video, like and subscribe, and hopefully you did, and I'll see you on the next video. Make some comments, let me know what you think and what your success or experience has been with Fedora 26. And I'll see you next time on Fast Gadgets.